Welcome to Building 72, the podcast brought to you by the Entertainment Arts and Engineering program at the University of Utah. Thank you for joining your hosts, Adam Hunter and Corinne Lewis, to talk about the video game industry and, probably other stuff.
Everybody, welcome to Building 72 with your host Corinne Lewis and Adam Hunter.
Love it.
There it is, everybody.
I'm afraid of that, Adam.
This is a new realm for all of our dedicated listeners. They can say they were here when it happened. Like, this will be talked about for generations to come.
Check the Billboard Top 100 after this.
Boom, there it is.
There you go.
Thank you, Garin. I, of course, am Adam Hunter, and with me always is Corinne Lewis, and we have Garin Richards with us today, who is an excellent human being and an excellent programmer, and so we're going to talk all about his excellence. Garin, do you want to introduce yourself, talk about where you came from, how you ended up where you are, what your favorite kind of taco is?
Hi, my name is Garin. I am a UI engineer working at Certain Affinity in Austin, Texas, the town's largest independent game developer. Currently, I'm helping out the Halo Infinite team out here in Austin. So hi, I am part of the cohort number 7. I want to make sure I got that right. Is that correct? I was a 7.
I think you were 7.
Okay, we'll go with that.
I'll do recon, you keep going, and I'll chime in.
There you go. And yes, I graduated from the EAE program in 2018. And yes, I was a computer science undergraduate student at the U and went right into the master's program there. And after graduating, I got my first job here at Certain Affinity. And it has been, if I remember correctly from my LinkedIn profile, as it tells me, about 2 years and maybe 6 months, something like that. I'm trying to, time is a myth here. But yes, it's been a wonderful ride. I had a great time in the program, and I'm doing some programming work at CA, and I'm very passionate about menus and buttons and how they work. You go.
So I want to talk all about UI, but before that, I want to talk about you're one of the not necessarily rare cases, but you went into the undergrad. I mean, not our program, but CS, and then into the master's degree. What inspired you to do that? What was your thought process when you were considering whether or not it was something you wanted to do?
Absolutely. So when I enrolled in the CS program at the U, I believe I was just following a typical bachelor's track, and my original passion was just programming, but my biggest hobby was games. And for the early part of that, when I'm working through my prerequisites, doing my math classes, doing my intro to computer science courses, I couldn't help but, I couldn't shake that feeling that I really wanted to do something with games. And I believe about the beginning of that second of my 5 years in that program, I did see we had some great news come out of our master's program and how it was just performing so well in terms of ranking, and also finally going to some information sessions and meeting the wonderful administrators like Corinne here and the rest of everyone running this program. And I was like, you know what? Okay, I can still do the programming thing. That's still a passion of mine. I do like the problem solving and the tech required in this profession, but I really care deeply about games. So let's do that. I switched into the computer science, still in the computer science program. I moved my emphasis to games, which for one, gave me a solid CS foundation. Still had to take my core classes, and to this day, I do think, that gives me a little bit of an edge, right? Because I think I have a really good foundation of those computer science basics, right? Where game programming
we'll never change that. I mean, that's such a critical piece of knowledge that you have to have as a programmer. Just those good classes.
Absolutely. And, game programming is just another type of software engineering with just a few different emphases here and there. And yes, I had a great time. I finished the undergraduate program and promptly moved into the grad program, and it was a ride. I do not regret it one bit, and I loved it to death. It's wonderful.
So you already knew before you even graduated that, well, I mean, obviously you knew because you had to apply, but like, it wasn't oh, I'll hit the job market and we'll see what happens. And then maybe it was I'm going straight in because I want to get knee deep in all this stuff.
Yes, sir. I was like, you know what? I wanted to get that game dev experience while I got my great, we just said wonderful CS foundation and understandings of that whole profession in that field. But I did know I wanted that experience. I wanted to get some of that, things that only the instructors, the engineering track in the master's program is top notch.
Yeah.
Joe Barnes is the man. He's the little angel on my shoulder when I'm writing code. He's little rules. Still remember to this day. And yeah, it was wonderful. It was wonderful.
I 100% agree that I think a huge debt of gratitude for our program is to Joe, because he adores teaching, but he is a working programmer. Like he, as you know, he works for Epic, so it's he really knows. And he, we keep thinking he's going to stop at any, and he doesn't want to. He just loves teaching so much. So we are so,
I think dreading is the more appropriate verb.
Dreading, I think it's actually
fearing.
The perfect.
I do have to applaud that man. It was a great class. I felt like every class and every assignment and piece of advice I got from him was absolutely spot on. I cannot recall how many times in my first year I was like, oh yeah, we went through this. We spent like 2-3 weeks on this topic and I'm over here just knocking this work out, no problem. So, he is an absolute boon to the engineers in our program. It's a wonderful man.
Yeah. I like to think that most of our faculty do that in their own area, but
absolutely. Everyone's great. Everyone's great.
Everyone's great, but some people are more great than others.
And some of us are just still, and we all have imposter syndrome in our own way.
Yeah, always someone there to, as much, I don't like to, we have to do our best, right? To not let that little voice get too loud, but it keeps you humble. Just a little bit like, oh, okay, you know what? Yeah, you're right. Only now for now.
Yeah.
So
on that note though, I actually want to, this is totally out of order of like a normal question flow, but I do want to hit on that. You mentioned you're working on Halo. Is that something that, did you ever think that you'd be working on such like a high profile game or maybe this soon out of school that you would have been doing so?
Great question. Thank you for asking that, because I am a very, very lucky man, Adam. That was the franchise that brought me into my hobby, into my love for this. So I cannot tell you how ecstatic I was when I was told I would be joining the team, giving support to those in Washington. It was quite a day. It was quite a day. I have to flex a little bit, right? I have to bring out my fan swag. So, Zoom is always a hit. I have to chalk it up to luck. Certain Affinity is known for co-development, which is, one of the many types of development studios out there that you can run in this industry. And it had a deep, deep history with Halo and first-person shooters. And of course, that caught my eye when I was out there looking for where I wanted to land and learn and grow. And the fact that so early in my career, I'm able to contribute to a franchise that is the reason why I'm here, that is absolutely something I do not take for granted. It is, as working as a game developer, everyone's always curious, how does it feel to play these like games that are out before, the rest of the public gets? And, those first couple play tests, I was like, wow, that is truly the dream. So it's been an absolute ride, and I'm only just a fortunate boy to be in the right place.
Well, I think, was it last week, Adam? I don't know. Everything is just like fading.
Garin said time doesn't exist.
Right.
That's not a thing anymore.
Correct.
But we were recording last week with another graduate of our program, and he is doing something amazing right now, something that he's always wanted to do. And he said, it's he feels very lucky, but he also thinks that he was prepared. So, your luck will meet preparation and give you the opportunity. So I love that he said that, because he was 100% prepared to get a job, and so were you.
Yes, ma'am. You did see how much hours I was putting into
I
that.
did. I always saw your dad's car in the parking lot.
He had the nice one. I wanted to at least make the 20-minute drive from the valley a bit fun, right? Before I had to read the books for a few. Yes, you do have to be prepared. And, I've spoken to many current and past student that came after me. It is a different world, in all honesty, entering this industry than, I can speak only for engineering, right? For programming in any other field in this world. And so it does require a lot of effort, but, it is also, I think, one of the most gratifying engineering disciplines, in all honesty, and yeah, the effort is there. If you put it in, you'll get your own moment where you tell yourself like, oh, those hours you saw me in that lab, right? And when I could log in for that first play test, I was like, okay, that was it. That was enough.
Well, that brings up the kind of one of the
So do you think
questions we have is like, what is your favorite thing about being a programmer?
My favorite thing about being a programmer is I love learning new things every day. I think video game technology is one of those fields that literally changes year by year, if not month by month, right? Something that you may have learned that was law just a few months ago or a project or two now is completely different. In fact, not only did the rule change, but 2 more startup companies have, sprung up to try and create new third-party tech to handle that question. I work with incredibly talented people in their own fields and of course other engineers. And a day doesn't go by that I have a little notepad where I'm like, okay, I learned a new thing today. Like, this is so interesting. As a engineer, I make things work. It may not look great, but it will work, right? And the next question is it fun? Again, I will make it work, And so, working alongside designers, artists, and our very, very important production teams. And I get to learn so many things about their lives, their craft. And I also use that in how, it shapes my work ethics, my work itself. There's just an incredible amount of change on a day-to-day, month-to-month basis in this like specific field that you may start your career, whatever period of time of your life it is, but I will tell you, even in just the few short years I've been out of school, it is completely different. And I feel like a completely different person in terms of just the breadth of knowledge of things I know.
I bet.
Do you think that adaptability is more so in games itself, or is that just kind of part and parcel with engineering as a field in general, just because of how tech grows and advances?
Adaptability is the name of the game in this industry, because we have to iterate. We have to find out what's fun. We have to find out what works. And so you really have to be able to, just context switch and change priorities on the fly. You will come into parts of your career where maybe you'll be working on something that you hold near and dear to your heart and everyone else loves it, but priorities change, things move. Maybe it'll stick around. Maybe it'll have to be molded into a different thing that you see in the final product. But adaptability is absolutely key, especially when, the game may play different from one week to the next, and you have to be ready to take that feedback from however you're getting that feedback, right? User research, just friends and family tests, of course, other, people on the team playing the same build, and you have to learn how to adapt to that, because at the end of the day, there's no right answer for the multitudes of questions we have to ask ourselves every day as developers. You just have to figure out as you go along, and that you have to be very adept to do that.
That's the fun thing, though. It's like always a puzzle. That's what I love about it.
Well,
Yeah.
And I always love hearing stories from different people about like something changed. Why did it change? Because that why can be anything from like, we did a focus group and it wasn't fun or whatever, to like the president of our company left, went on a pilgrimage to wherever, and now we have to do what, like there are so many different things that can cause that, like, why did something change? It's kind of like a hobby of mine to collect stories of like, so this changed, what was the cause of it? Because it's very often not, oh, we just went through it and we decided we could improve it. It's usually like some other bigger story going on.
Absolutely. I can say for my field, user interface, that is very true, right? As if you're, any gamer or fan of any type of franchise will see, as they see media and trailers and footage from their favorite games as they're being made, why do the health bars move all around the screen? Why does it just gravitate to every corner until it settles in one place at launch? Or why do certain controls and things feel different from the demo I played 6 months ago? Right? It is user interface I enjoy because it is incredibly adaptive, in the sense of I'll get feedback one day where it's like, oh, this thing needs to change like this. And there's this fun part in development where after so many months or years working on a single feature or a single product, you start to develop these mental like dates or milestones, right? Of like, oh yeah, we used to do this here and this there and this here. And next thing you know, when you're sitting 2 years, 3 years out from when you first started down this road, you're like, this is completely, if you go and compare this to the original design doc, this is a different game. But you also look at that original design document, you're like, wow, that would not have been a great game. This is a great game.
Well, that's the most amazing thing about that institutional knowledge, that why, I think the game industry finally figured out why they want to have developers stay on a project for a long time, and not actually just on one project, but like have companies who do multiple projects, because that institutional knowledge, you remember all those steps about why you ended up with the thing, where it is. And then, if somebody comes in, swans in and says, well, we should have it over here, then you already know exactly why it shouldn't be wherever. I'm preaching to the choir, but I just feel like it's such a critical thing that the game industry didn't do for a while. But I do feel like it's changed. And I think it's, like your knowledge of this process is so important. It's so valuable to them.
Yes. And, my square I really enjoy is shooters. That is my bread and butter. That is the genre I grew up and loved. And, in the few short years I've been making them, the wealth of knowledge I learned on my own alongside my incredibly talented and experienced colleagues too. I think I'll continue with the shooties, with those games for some time. RPGs, love them. They seem like a lot of fun, but I'm really into making sure that hitting the targets feels great. And as UI engineer, that you get the right information to make the experience the player is going through is fun and informative.
So let's talk about UI for 1 second, because that's the thing that not a lot of people know a lot about. So I have a 2-part question. For the first thing, could you kind of explain not what UI is, but like what your role in it is, and kind of how you approach it? And then the second question is, in my experience, UI engineers are usually more, I don't want to say the word collaborative, but like there's normally a UI engineer and a UI artist, and they're the ones that are paired up together and they're kind of making their own thing. Whereas normally it's like, hey, there's a whole team and they sometimes talk with the artists or the designers.
Right.
So I guess the question behind that all is, do you find that there is more collaboration and more teamwork necessary doing UI than maybe other types of engineering?
Great question. Thank you so much. To get to the first part, exactly what it is that I do. So I am a UI engineer. I really care deeply about the health bars and the buttons that you see on screen, and making sure they are only adding to the player experience and that you are not getting frustrated because your main menu is frozen. That is my bread and butter. I work alongside, other experienced engineers doing main gameplay or doing, the heavy lifting of things like making networked games possible. My job is to help, move forward and own those features related to how those on-screen elements interact and how they add to the player experience. My experience so far, I like to call it into 2 different, realms: in-game, out-of-game. Out-of-game is, what is the first thing you see when you launch your game on your new shiny PS5? Press start to go. Right.
I had one of those.
Yeah. God bless the semiconductors, right? I'm also watching the queue, no worries. Working outside of the main game experience, right, which has, obviously that's where a lot of people's eyes are when you think about a great game. You're like, oh, I remember how, like, in this action scene. But that first flow into the main game, I like to think of that as, okay, this is the first exposure of this whole team, of this whole studio's work ethic and prowess and handle on this medium. I want to make sure this experience that they have before I present them my colleagues' work is as smooth and painless as possible. And if anything, only adds to their experience, right? And so as a UI engineer working in menus, you really care deeply about how information is displayed. I mean, I am that man in the meeting asking about font sizes, kerning. I'm asking about how readable is that in different aspect ratios. I'm that guy. Apologies to my production for always bringing up those bugs, right? And then, speaking of in-game, when I'm working in-game, performance and crucial information is the name of the game. Performance meaning that, as I want to say the three of us here in this group call can agree, it is a miracle sometimes that these games run. They are high performant pieces of software, and there's maybe not a lot of time for UI to do their things and get some compute time on these, new consoles or on your computer. And so, I have to make sure my code is as efficient and performant as possible, because remember, when you're in the game, the real star of the show is gameplay.
Right.
So I want to make sure that my features and my contributions to that experience only adds, and you don't get any missed frames, because 60 frames is now the required as per the current industry trends, right?
And how dare you dip down to 59?
right. So yeah, as a UI engineer, those are kind of like the two worlds I live in. And each world is an interesting set of technical challenges and design challenges and collaboration challenges, which maybe to lead into your second question is, when I'm working outside in those front end menus, the type of people I'm going to be interacting is those who care deeply about the presentation of the product, right? You're going to be working with a lot of 2D art, UI art. You're going to be working with a lot of stakeholders on different features that are throughout the main game. And those conversations are completely different conversations than the type of people I'd be working with when working in game, where let's say I have to display how some information relating to a gameplay mechanic looks, how it presents, how it works. I may have to talk to a gameplay designer, a gameplay engineer, and I have to, it is an art. It is an art to be able to see your audience and be like, okay, engineer talking to an engineer is a different conversation I can have than engineer talking to a 3D artist and seeing how their work is portrayed, so I can make sure it acts appropriately on screen. And, all I can speak for is UI engineering. I want to say I'm a good collaborator communicator. I've only heard good things, and it is, I think, one of these roles that in game dev where I truly have to talk to a lot of people. I truly have to talk to a lot of people. I have to talk to stakeholders who own so many different features throughout the game, because I want to make sure that their things are portrayed in the game experience well. Whereas, again, can't really speak too much for other engineering disciplines, but it's just, I have my hands in all kinds of places. Like, okay, how about this feature? How does it look? How is it performing like on screen, and so on and so forth. So hopefully that helped you out.
Yeah, very much. Some of my favorite conversations that I had were always when they'd always come up to me and they'd be like, all right, we need to talk about text again. How much text are you going to want in this stupid text box? And like, do you want it to be centered? And do you want it to be, and then I'll always chime in, but remember German. And then they'll be like, oh, God.
You said the word, you said the L word, localization. You said it. Yes, that is always a fun time. Ooh, buddy. Because remember, we make games for more than just North America, right? So that is also, a burden.
It's probably going to be localized.
There you go. Yeah, UI, we have to care about how it looks in the Western countries and the Eastern countries, and how different characters from different languages present. It is, again, I'm that guy, mid-engineering conversation, like, how does that look like for Asian characters, though? Is that enough, like, aside on, and they're like, really, Garin, right now? I'm like, I'm just saying, localization matters. So
like, it's going to matter down the road. So we probably should address it now rather than trying to like fix it later.
Yes, sir. Right now, before CERT says to fix it, right?
Yes.
Right.
So you've talked a lot about your passion of programming and everything like that. Is UI something you kind of stumbled into, as far as you learned in your undergrad, like, programming is what I do and I love solving puzzles and everything? Was UI, like, how did you get into the world of UI specifically, as opposed to networking or full stack or other stuff like that?
Right. The funny answer I like to give is I'm just really petty. I just care. I just care about things that no one else does, you know. But
Turning.
the
Oh, we'll just stick him in the corner. He can just worry
exactly, he'll
about
care
it.
about scroll bars and all that stuff. The real answer for you is, as I was going through undergraduate, I took a liking to how information is presented. I took a liking to how we interact with these applications. At the University of Utah, you have many opportunity to be working on applications, and part of the assignment is, make a quick menu so you can the TA can run it to grade it. And I was that guy that spent a lot of time on those menus, and the TA would be like, oh, thank you for so much, you made my life much easier. I cared really deeply about how information is presented, how it's interacted with. And as time went on, and my hobby games continued, and then you start playing these games, and you open these menus and you open these settings, you're like, okay, this looks a bit weird. Why do they do this? Then you start playing games like Destiny, and you're like, what is this floating reticle thing? What's the usability? Why are they doing this in the menus? And that's my drive. I really do care about how, my other philosophical answer I like to give for this question is, I just really care deeply about how my colleagues' work is presented, which is not only my philosophical answer, but it's my true answer, right? My colleagues in other departments and other disciplines working on these products are incredibly talented. If my work isn't doing the right thing, their work won't be displayed, right? I'm constantly in awe of things like our environment art team and when you see any of these like concept art, 2D art, when you see design and the things that they're coming up with and all these fun encounters and gameplay, and I'm like, if my health bar doesn't work right, then the player will not care about any of that.
Right.
And so that's my answer for you, is I just care really, really deeply about how stuff is displayed. Yeah.
So what you're saying is that every studio needs to have a Garin, because then we can insert some of that passion in places where it may be lacking a little bit.
You are right, but I don't know, one of me for every studio, that's almost too much me here, but
can the world handle that, like, collectively speaking?
Right.
Well, I certainly play enough video games to know that they like, whether we could handle it, we need it.
yes that with the recent trend in the last 5 to 10 years of mobile, interesting space.
Yep.
Love to see what teams are doing to make this flat slate of touch interactivity actually run. And now when I see my younger nieces and nephews that are growing up with these smartphones, they're faster playing these touch screen shooters than I am with a whole gamepad, on a full console. I'm like, how? It's incredible.
I know. When I watch people play PUBG on their phone, I'm like, what is happening right now?
And as again, they're kids, right? So I'll be watching them and they're all bent in shape, sitting on the couch playing these games upside down. And I'm like, how are you doing that? I'm over here having to do the, late 20s. I have to sit in the middle of the room, middle of the screen, and have to hunch forward. And it's just, yeah, incredible. User interface is going with that new mobile trend is very interesting. I think only in the very last few years with things like PUBG Mobile, I absolutely love like Warzone Mobile. Those controls and that feel for a mobile game on my iPhone is like, that's incredible. That's incredible. As an FPS fan, I've been so used to, and I love my keyboard and mouse and gamepad. But when I spent that, like, I think one day, like a good 5 to 6 hours, I'm like, I need, where's my charger? Like, wow, this is good. This is good.
Wow. That's good to know. I mean, I think that we just have such a powerful computer in our phones. I think that, and it's got this weird, like, oh, only old ladies play Bejeweled on their phones, and I hate that because it's. I mean, a long time ago, Infinity Blade blew everybody away. So we know that it's like there's a lot of power there, and it's like the whole thing about Blizzard putting Diablo mobile. Everybody was so mad about that. I'm like, you guys are just old.
No, that makes sense.
Come into the real world.
I, when I saw that reveal trailer, I'm like, wow, that looks great. Like, if I could play that, if I could play that on, on the tracks, that would be a lot of fun.
Yes.
Yeah, it is incredible.
Oh, I don't know. The internet just gets all mad about everything.
What? The internet is like a kind place that everyone is decent to each other and
Wow, Adam, are
understanding.
you suffering from COVID right now?
Are you okay? Are you okay?
So I was going to say, though, I was going to lean into the mic, but then I realized the mic was right here.
Oh, yes.
And I was like, okay, so take note, anyone who is going to be in capstone or going to be doing their thesis game, mobile games can be a thing
Right.
if you make them a thing.
Actually, we have a number of games that are in production right now. Garin, we should have you come and look at them. And
Absolutely. I'd love to. That sounds like a lot of fun.
that are going to be perfect on mobile, and the teams are super happy about it. So I think that it's changing. I mean, we went through that weird period where like, what's a gamer? And then everybody was like, you have to look a certain way or have a certain, you know, vocabulary, or I don't know what it was, but I've always said, it's like, I'm not invading your space. You're invading mine. I've been here way long.
Right. Yeah. I am excited to see more coming out of our academic programs when it comes to embracing, mobile game. I say embracing mobile games like it's brand new. It's been around for a good half a decade to whole decade. Zynga's a thing. They're very large. That's their bread and butter. So there's companies who have.
In 95, there were games on the internet. So
there's whole studios with multiple locations and now have skin in the game when it comes to mobile gaming. But yeah, mobile gaming is absolutely should be something that an up and coming person wanting to get into this industry. If that's something they love, and it is rapid, it is fast, and all those things I said earlier about adaptability and being quick on your toes. I want to say even mobile games may be the most guilty of that one. Those the App Store is not that big of a screen with a lot of real estate.
Yeah,
but it is
very tiny real estate. I know.
Absolutely.
I mean, we definitely are getting a lot more diverse games in general. I think that things are changing, right? So I feel like they're changing.
Yeah. I love to I love my AAA big games, of course, but it's also I always tell friends who are in an industry, pay attention to the double A's, the indies.
Absolutely.
Those
Hades is winning all like.
Perfect game,
right?
Perfect game, Hades is. And when people tell me like, yeah, but AAA is getting so, this is the game you're going to get, I already know what I'm expecting. I'm like, that's fine. You're going to have an audience for that. But if you want to play something real weird or out there, or maybe pushes that boundary, look up Devolver. Devolver is awesome. They're always got weird new things 100%, to play.
100%. But you can spend $300 million on a game and get Cyberpunk.
That is true. That is true.
I think they're gonna work through that, but like there's too much pressure on those games. It's I don't know.
Yeah, that is working in AAA, I completely get it. I do understand the stresses and the external and the internal stressors of making a great product. I wish nothing but the best for that team. Oh, yeah. I'm rooting for them every single day. At the end of the day,
just went through it.
When I log into my machine each day, I just want to make the best game I possibly can.
And so do they, I'm sure.
Exactly. And so I wish them the best of luck. And I'm excited to see how that game turns out, because I do still believe it is a phenomenal looking, playing, and designed game.
Yeah.
Hopefully it can be a No Man's Sky situation where in 3 years we're all talking about it and being like, hey.
There you go.
It will. It will. I'm sure. So, that's the funny thing about games. It's like, it's not like a movie. Like you get one big opening weekend and then hope you've got, opening weekends in other countries and things like that. It's just a different product, right? So I think people think it's supposed to be perfect. I think we all want it to be perfect because we're spending $60 or whatever, but I also know that $60 is a depressed, like it's a artificially low amount. And so we're this industry is just getting aging, and so we're just getting to different problems, so that's good.
Yeah, you talk about the content creep, and if you look at these games, these play times for the box products are getting longer and longer and longer. These development times are getting longer and longer because the expectations of the consumers and the people and our fans are obviously growing.
Yeah.
that is that is the real challenge in this industry for the people piloting the ship, is how do we continue to deliver on that, because that's what people want out of this medium.
Yeah.
If they wanted something else, they'd watch a movie or read a book, right?
Yeah, but I mean, 50 hours versus 400 hours. Like, I don't even know how many hours I have in Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Yeah.
It's too freaking big. Like, it's just too big. Could have
Yeah.
been.
Exactly.
I've gotten to the point where I'll start playing games like huge AAA games, and I'll play them, and they'll just like the first 7 hours is a tutorial experience getting me ready for the next 200 hours, and I'm just like, this is too much. Like I don't care about this whole crafting system that you like. Just let me explore a world. Just let me go around.
Play Civ 6. It's like, I mean, that's a different game, but it's like I can't understand how to play the freaking game. Like, there's so much layers of stuff that I don't know. There's just like no tutorial. I had the same thing with Odyssey. I just like stumbled around, like, why do I have a raven or a bird? I don't know, like an eagle. It's an eagle. But yeah.
Are we all in the same camp of, I would really love a what you missed while you were away feature,
right. I haven't played the last 4 games. Here's what you need to know.
Or hey, here's just quick and dirty. Here's a tutorial. Let's get to the main gameplay, because it is 8 p.m. I just had dinner, and maybe I have an hour or two before I fall asleep. Because I'm getting to that age.
Because you're an adult and you like to pay the rent.
Exactly.
What I want the feature, and this is actually a UI thing so much as it is anything else. I want the, hey, you haven't played this game for 6 months. Here's the recap of how you can jump back into this game.
Oh man, yes, that would be wonderful. I can't tell you how many times I'm like, I just opened a Breath of the Wild just the other day because I've been having such a time in Hyrule Warriors: Age of Calamity.
Oh yeah.
And I fell in love with the characters in the world again. I'm like, oh my, of course, it's just Zelda. I have Breath of the Wild. I bought it 5 years ago, so let me open that up again. And I'm in the middle of Hyrule or the land. I'm like, what's going on here? Okay. And I just spend the next 45 minutes refreshing myself on game facts and YouTube.
Right.
Like, okay, all right, yeah. Yes. I will champion that feature for you.
Make it happen. I'll
make it happen.
Call it the Atom feature.
There you go, the Atom.
Look at this. People listening today, they will not only be able to say they were here for the beginning of the jingle, but they were here for the invention of the Atom feature.
For the
Adam,
game
that jingle
recap.
is not gonna make it to the net, like the last cut.
You say that, but
I
yet
hope
we're
it
talking
does.
about it now, so only viewers will be able to tell.
Mhm.
So, Garin, I have a question for you that gets asked of me all the time,
Mhm.
from like an advisory standpoint, not me
Yes.
because I'm not an engineer at all. A lot of them will just say, like, how in the world do you get through like an undergrad with like CS? How do you have either coping mechanisms, or do you have like these are the types of personalities that can get through it? Because that's stuff where I can only offer theoretical knowledge, but I have no like
A support, a shoulder to lean on. Yes,
exactly. I'm just like, well, I guess it's probably this.
Bless your heart. Yes, when those students come to you like, I need help. Why? How do I do this? Because I completely understand. As a first generation college student, it was a bit difficult for me to relate my experience, even though I was living right at home. My parents and my sibling just saw he's up late again doing homework. I mean, like, what, they'd see me working on the same, Java file, and I'm just sitting there watching the console window, like, again, really again. How to make it through a program like computer science or even these games programs is, the first thing I have to say is, self-care, right? Healthy self-care, to make sure you give yourself a moment to breathe, because I know how it feels to run and sprint for, months, if not years of my life. And I will tell you, I wish I took a moment to take a break. So find a hobby that gets you away from a computer. Find a hobby that gets you away from a computer so you can get something else. For me, that hobby was music. I played me some bass and electric guitar, and that was my like, okay, I need to stop thinking about C++ and learn this little jingle, maybe yours. And that was my moment away, to de-stress, to get away. And I think that is required. So please take care of yourself. Find something that doesn't have to do with computers. I know of people whom will finish their immediate academic homework and then move right to the side project of programming. Love that for you if you know that is right for you. I know myself, I love making games. There are some days where I'm like, oh, I think I'll watch Netflix tonight. Um, and besides that, that support system, you have to find that. Whether maybe this year that is a great solid group of pals. You guys can jump into a Discord server every other night and maybe play some games and party games right there on stream. But you do need that solid support network. And if you're fortunate enough to be able to connect with someone who immediately understands what you're going through, other engineers directly in your program and with similar interests, I cannot tell you how much easier it was to make it through those all-nighters or those late nights working in the computer labs. And like, I have my buddy right here, he or she is awesome, where you can go take a quick walk around the building, get some fresh air, some cold air, because God forbid, I think it's quite chilly on campus, right? Majority of the year. And so you need that support
3
network.
months of really cold air.
Yes. And if I recall, the Warnock and the Merrill engineering buildings can be quite chilly really late at night with all that cement, right?
Yep.
It's always hold a dear place in my heart. Please don't take that to any offense. So that support system is you need it. I was very fortunate enough to connect with some wonderful people in my graduate program that we were there for each other every step of the way. We shared the same drive, the same very similar aspirations, and we were those shoulders. Like when one night was just a bit difficult, you're like, hey, you can do it. I'll hang out here, and while you got about an hour or two left on that, I'll hang out and get caught up on some of my things. And it's a vice versa relationship. And so to that CS student who's listening to this, whom is looking at, the end of the semester, 4 or 5 different assignments, 3 of them due at midnight tomorrow, you can do it. I believe in you. Go get a glass of water, take 15 minutes away from your computer, and you can come back and look at that code later.
That's excellent advice.
That's fantastic advice. Oh my goodness.
Thanks. Just made it up. No.
What you did is lived it, hon.
That my academic career was quite a time. I remember it fondly.
I'm glad, because sometimes at the end there is no fun.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember it.
Right. And to that same kid, you will get to graduation. If you just keep at it, you'll get to graduation. And I cannot tell you how that feels to be surrounded by those people you were in the trenches with, getting that paper. And, that means something. That means something to you. That means something to your friends and your family who wasn't sure if you could do it. That means something. You will get there. I cannot tell you how much, those hardships I had in my academic career where I was like, yes, it's worth it. Maybe that one of those first moments was my first Halo playtest, of course. But, I was telling my parents that, hey, I did it. I'm going to go make video games for a living, and I'm going to be paid pretty well for it, and I'm leaving for Texas. And that moment was worth it. You can do it.
That was probably rough on your family, though. You were so close to your family.
Yeah, it is. It's a long drive. I think we covered that earlier. It's a long drive, and it is 2 states away. Be prepared emotionally and mentally for that.
2 states.
It's like 9 states away.
Exactly. I think if I'm not correct, does it have another time zone? I think it's like Central and Central 2, yes, it is relocating that you will have to do for this industry, a majority of the time, a number of times. That is always an experience. And again, if you can make it through your studies, you can make the move as well. It'll be easy compared to that. That'd be low.
I love that advice so much. And I swear, I thought you were going to say, be really good at math.
You're telling them, yes, I did great at math, Corinne. Yes, of course. I excelled. Yes, math is important. But I'll let you know, for UI, all I care is about X and Y. All right. So that's all. It's enough for me. All right. I got, yes, math is, again, the foundations of your engineering.
Not a bad idea to be good at math. It's fun.
Absolutely.
But, I know lots of really, really good programmers that are not great at math.
Bad at math.
But that's fine.
I'm married to one.
I do still appreciate my math foundations, but if you had told me that I would have had a question from another programmer, how did you do this? Okay, Google. I mean, that's how I did. He's like, really? Because I found the same thing. I'm like, oh no.
We say this all the time. Like we teach you some stuff, but what we're really teaching you is how to learn and how to put in place ways for you to learn in the future, because school is a very finite thing, you know.
Yes,
especially
ma'am.
into a career.
You don't win life, right? Like, so it's not about winning or I don't know.
I agree. You know, I would not be here without the habits and the tools that my education gave me.
Mhm.
While yes, Adam, you're correct. It's not like you guys gave me a rundown of the Halo code base, but you gave me the tools on how to be able to navigate this type of role on this type of project, right?
And lots of practice being on a team, which I think that it
Heavens,
sounds
yes.
like, I mean, you were always good at that, Garin, knowing you, but I
Thank
also,
you.
it matters, you know, to be able to practice and be a dummy on the team once in a while, and, you know, and then
Yes.
cool, and
yes.
I'm not going to get fired.
And if I could speak to the engineers for just a quick second, you are more than just your commit messages. Talk to people. You know, jump on a video chat if that's what you're gonna have to do now. But you know, next year when we can go back out, jump on a video chat. Learn to communicate. You can tell when an engineer has done a lot of independent individual things, if you get my drift. So please, engineers, talk to your coworkers, understand how to talk with them. You know, you have an audience, right? And maybe I can talk with another engineer. Yeah, I can throw function names and, you know, API calls back and forth with you, and we'll just be on the same, you know, bouncing ball. But when I have to talk to environment artists, be like, okay, how do I communicate to this person? For one, we we complete the goals of this interaction, and two, so I'm human. And that maybe there's not exactly a class for that in the CS curriculum yet, how to be human, but you can accomplish that by getting out, talking to other people, becoming comfortable with speaking to other technical and non-technical individuals and disciplines. One of the things I think I did that to this day, it's my 2 truths, 1 lie. So you guys got a heads up on that. Is about halfway through my CS education, I realized, oh, Garin, you're not really great at talking. How do I fix this? But you don't like being in front of people. How do I do this? The radio. Joined the radio station at the university, and yes, talking into a microphone is eons not as anxiety inducing as getting in front of the class, I'll tell you that.
It's true.
But you know, I was able to learn how to conversate, you know, over about a year and a half after I started hosting a show on the internet radio. Me and a good friend could easily, you know, socially knock out a great interview with a person we've never met and only met 30 minutes prior. So again, engineers, communication is also part of your job. You can write great code, but you also can talk about how you write that great code well. So
Yep, you gotta do that. I think we every single interview we've done, the person that we've talked to said how critical that was.
Yep.
So
yes,
and it's not even, and we're not even feeding that to you. You just know. And I can't even imagine that there was a time in your life where you could not talk to me.
Bless you. Thank you.
I can't even imagine Garin without that.
Yeah, it was, you know, I do recall my early days as a, you know, first generation college student on that big campus,
Yeah.
you know, and man, if I just think about, oh, year 7, look at you conversating, getting in front of the class and no problem, speeches here and there, no problem.
Yeah.
But I can only think of, again, just communication is a tool, just like how well you can figure out a complex algorithm. All right.
Yeah.
So following up really quickly, because I know Corinne's about to say we're out of time.
It goes so
this
fast.
This is just a question that we get asked all the time. Are C# and C++ kind of like the name of the game as far as what you need to be learning if you want to be a game engineer?
Quick answer, yes.
Okay.
The C languages, still very important. What's even more important is that you're just up to date with what is the current, right? As we live and breathe right now, the big name of the game, Unity, if for more smaller independent projects to large projects too, it does that well. Unreal Engine is more heavily used at the larger scale, and also homegrown engines. These large games with many members and big budgets may have their own in-house tech. So if you want to, just keep an eye out on how you can you navigate around those three comfortably. And if you have to, let's say you're working for co-development and one project, you may be working here. Next project, next year, a few months later, you'll be working here. Just be nimble. Just make sure you take stock of what's happening in the land. And what I would recommend actionably is to make sure that if you know where you want to be, do you want to be independent? Do you want to be AAA? Look at the tech that those games that you want to make are using, and just be mindful of that. And so if that means like, I want to work on those big AAA shooter games, all right, C++ is the name of the game. Make sure you can, code your way out of a box with that.
Excellent advice. Yep. Okay, now I am gonna say it because this just goes by so fast. I hate that. We could talk to you forever. And we used to.
I had so much fun.
Time. But it's time for rapid fire questions.
Okay. All right. So, okay. All right.
All right. You ready?
Yes. Hit me.
What's the first video game you ever remember playing?
Sonic the Hedgehog. Sega Genesis.
What was the first system that you ever owned?
Sega Genesis.
Sega Genesis.
That little blue hedgehog. Yes.
Yeah, that speed, man. That was just.
That was.
I
I cannot exactly. I know I was very young, and I just remember having the time of my life, picking up rings and jumping around.
Yep, I had to get
the rest is history.
I had to have all the rings. I'm such a collector, though.
Mm-hmm.
So, what is your favorite game of all time? And I think we already know.
Oh, I think, yes, it is a tie for Halo 2, 3, and 5.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. It is a tie. I love that.
Like a triple tie. Gee.
Yeah, they're all very good for, just
very
a great game and also different things. 5, wonderful modern FPS gameplay. And yeah, so.
Awesome.
Tabs or spaces?
Tabs. I'm not crazy. Tabs. You guys can find me on Twitter if you want to fight about that, Tabs. Thank you.
I don't know what that means.
It's okay, Corinne. It's okay. Only the nerds. Don't let them fight. Let us squabble.
Is that a first person? Because I don't play those. Right?
It's a programming thing.
It's a programming thing. Yeah.
Oh. Sorry. I really don't know about that.
I added that to the list last minute.
I saw that.
That's a good one.
Other than, I'm gonna put a caveat. Other than any of the Halos, what is a game from the past that you wish you could have worked on?
I mentioned how one of my hobbies was music, and if I did not give hundreds of dollars for those plastic instruments known as Rock Band, if I too much money on those storefronts getting my favorite songs, too much money on those, I probably went through a double-digit amount of equipment, and it was my favorite. Let me escape from reality and be my frontman. And I was fortunate enough to make friends with some developers who worked on that game, and they've had great stories. So Rock Band, that is a wonderful game series.
I still have the guitar because I can't give it up.
Yeah, if I go back to my parents' house, I'm sure my original guitar, that I thought I was so cool by modifying, by coloring the buttons,
I did it with the drums. I put I got like a circle cutter so I could put the actual felt on it so it wouldn't be so noisy. And
yep, and modifications so you can get better kick. Corinne, that was
a mic stand. We used to have parties with 30 people would come, and we would take turns. Because everybody wanted to sing or everybody wanted to play, so we had to take turns. I adore Rock Band.
Okay, that's what we're doing. When we do alumni tours, we are getting a 360. We are bringing a Rock Band set with us, and we are doing pickup games of Rock Band.
There you go.
I don't know, 400 songs on our 360.
Because everyone's going to have those like muscle memory fundamentals.
You do.
Yes.
But it's going to be like karaoke where like the drunker you get, the more fun it is for everybody watching.
Yes.
Adam, I took singing lessons so I would get better.
Okay, this is a thing. Like we're taking this offline, but this is a thing.
We can find a space here in Austin. I'll see you guys post 2021.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Couple rapid fire questions. Who's your favorite Pokemon?
Favorite Pokemon, that would be, oh my goodness, Grookey, the little monkey, Grookey.
Very nice.
Cute little boy. Love him to death.
So-
Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say, what games are you playing right now?
Right now, I'm playing a lot of Hyrule Warriors and a lot of Hades. I'm falling in love with my Switch. And I think, I got some running stuff in Stardew Valley to
Oh my
mellow
gosh.
out my day.
My Stardew Valley, I don't like. I have a problem.
Yes.
It's like
So
my
wonderful
first
game.
step.
I had to start all the way over, even though I had every single thing when we got the new update, and I started the beach farm. Oh my gosh.
No. You got to start all over. You didn't have to start all over.
But yeah,
Hundreds of hours. It's so calming, right?
It
I watch
is.
the news and do it. So
there you go.
That's a good prevent the doom scrolling by playing Stardew.
yeah, that's exactly what I do.
Waiting for a
Animal
build.
Crossing.
I'm running through Hyrule Warriors. Waiting for a review. Waiting for Hyrule Warriors. It just passes the time and keeps me off of Twitter, right?
And so the last question we always like to end on, is there any advice that you would give to either someone wanting to start their career in games or to wee little Garin, who is just graduating from school, either undergrad or grad? Is there any advice that you think that you've learned now that you want to
If you could go back in time and give yourself advice.
I want to answer both. If you gave me the option, I want to do both. The first one, my advice I have to give you is you can do it. It is hard. It's going to seem impossible at times. It's a wonderful medium with wonderful people, but it is very fast and very difficult. You can do it. One foot in front of the other. Make a goal for tonight and make a larger goal for the week. You can do it. And for a little Garin who just graduated with his undergraduate or God forbid high school, I can't even remember who that person is. You'll be fine. It'll be worth it. Just continue. You'll make it.
And you are going to get to be who you were meant to be.
Exactly. Very fortunate boy, but it's going to be worth it.
That's what I would
It's going to be worth it.
That's what I would tell 18-year-old Garin.
There you go.
He wasn't really sure, I think.
Exactly.
One day we need to figure out what you're going to tell 18-year-old Corinne, but that's another story for another time.
There you go.
Thank you so much, Garin. That was absolutely fantastic and beautiful at the end and tear-inducing and wonderful.
For you. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I love you all to bits. Anytime you guys need me for anything, I am right here digitally. And of course, if we could in person, I would be there as well.
We'll be there in person as soon as we can.
Absolutely.
Yep.
All right.
So, thank you so much. See ya, everybody.
Have a good weekend. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.